Before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the unparalleled one, the exalted one, the Tathagata, by chanting the Namaskara 3 times, all together and with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. With the permission of the Noble Chibu Gem, let's begin. One of my favorite quotes, or I think it's more of a saying than a quote, is that there are 3 things you can't keep hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And why it's one of my favorites is because it reminds us that no matter what, the truth of this world will come out. It may not come out so everyone can see, but it will come so individually, each and every one of us will see. And that truth and the reality will change us, will alter us, will make us into what? Into the best we possibly can be, which is what? A great arahant. An arhat nuance or arhat mehin nuance. And it's a very positive thing. There are 3 things you can't keep hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Because no matter how hard you try, the truth will come out. No matter how hard you try to hide it. So as they say, Mara tries to hide the truth. To what extent does Mara do it and what extent that we do it it's arguable. But at the end of the day, no matter how hard you try, the truth will come out. All we have to do is to be ready. All we have to do is to be ready, to have the environment so we can understand the reality. So no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard someone tries, or no matter how hard that nature tries, because nature doesn't do anything to hide it. But this truth is so valuable. This truth is so valuable, only a minute number of people can truly understand it. So it's not as though someone's hiding it, but it is hidden. But hidden for how long? The question "how long" is a it's a very illogical question. How long? Because you can't really say how long something's been hidden. Because there's only 2 things: either hidden or not. It's like when you flip a coin, you can either get heads or tails. If I asked, how long will there be heads? Or how long will there be tails? That question is strange, isn't it? I mean, when it's heads, it's heads. When it's tails, it's tails. I can't say how long will it be heads, or how long will it take it to be heads. Instead, when the coin is flipped, either heads or tails. Same thing. Either you understand or you don't. Either the truth is revealed or it's hidden. How long? That question you cannot ask. That question cannot be asked. How long? How long will it take until Dakkineyo? Again, this question is illogical. Because you cannot either say that Dakkineyo is here or Dakkineyo is not. But our mind likes to do what? Our mind likes to use what we have to predict the future, our imagination. So we say, in another couple hours, Dakkineyo is going to begin. But how long will the truth be hidden? When the environment is there, when this mind is ready, the truth will be revealed. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So as a student, what should we do? We need to do what we can to make this, to be ready for the teacher to appear. The teacher can appear in many ways. The teacher can appear in many folds. Whether it's a fellow Siddha Shravaka, Shravika, whether, it's a noble heartian, it doesn't matter. A teacher will appear one day. The teacher will appear when the environment is right. Until then, we have to keep putting the environment together. And, and don't worry, one day the truth will be revealed. But when you have this question, when will I understand? When will I be able to understand? When will I become an arahant? When will I do this? When I will do that? That question of when is what brings this pressure, this almost extra pressure. Because, the question of when comes from the idea of, the past, present, and future. I've been listening to these sermons for, X amount of years. The past. How long will it take me to understand this? The future. But both of these are just parts of your imagination because the past is gone. The mind arose, the mind passed. Now what's remaining right now is just what? Just a memory. Or as Guru Handru and our teachers say it, almost as though it's like a dead body. Just a mark. That's all that's left. But we say that, I've been here for this many amount of time. I should have understood this by now. Again, parts of your imagination. And how long will it take me to become an arahant? Again, parts of your imagination. You're now predicting when. And when you think that it's not coming, it's not there yet, then this pressure builds up inside. And when the pressure builds up inside, the mind finds a way to relieve that pressure, doing two things. Either you feel pressure to get to where you want to go, or you bring where you want to go to where you are, to relieve that pressure. Because the mind, it's very simple. The mind, when under pressure, will find a way to relieve it. The mind hates being under pressure. The mind hates being vexed. The mind hates doing it. The mind hates feeling this vexation. So the mind will always try to relieve it. So when you ask yourself, when will Dakkineyo be? When will we see the next ordination ceremony? When? That's you imagining the future. This present mind imagining the future and wanting that future to be or not to be. So for example, some of our 18-minus children, they're having some exams. So they come and say, I don't want to do these exams, so many exams. Currently, they're just studying. But they look into the future and say, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. Again, imagining the future and suffering in this moment, feeling this pressure at this moment. The future is part of your imagination. The past, or you feeling the past at this moment, is also what? Part of your imagination. So when will you attain Nibbāna? When will you attain Nibbāna? When the causes come together. Now that could be in how many years' time? Maybe decades? Maybe centuries? See, when I say the word centuries, you have that feeling, centuries? I won't be alive in another century. I don't think I'll be alive in another decade. So, then what will I do? There are three things you can't keep hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. The truth will be realized when the causes come together. When is that? 5, 10, 15, 100, 200, 900? Someday, when the causes come together. So don't worry. Don't use your imagination to predict the future. Come to this moment and live in this moment. Come to this moment and live in this moment. The future is part of your imagination. When, where, how, push that to the side. Right now, focus on what you have right now. What can be done right now? Whether you are aware right now. Think about it. In this week, if I asked you, in this week, how aware were you? Now you had different answers. I wasn't so aware. I should have been more aware. I could have been more aware. But that's all part of the past. What you have to do is look in the past to see where you went wrong. Not to think, why didn't I not do that? I should have done this. I should have done that. No, instead to realize what you can do right now. What is it that I can do right now? Next. Okay, thank you. Next. Every experience that you experience, every event that you experience is something that you learn from. Yesterday, let's say, yesterday you got angry. So, all you have to say is what? Thank you. Let's think about what happens next. How can I not have that situation? Or how can I not have that feeling of anger again? And you're thinking about that at this moment. But one thing that we love doing is to roam in the past and think, yesterday I got angry. Why did I get angry? I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. And you live in this past. No, every event that happens is a lesson. All you have to do is say thank you. Next. Is to say thank you, because why? The mind arose, the mind passed. Right, that's it. Thank you. I learned something. Thank you. What's next? But we are so absorbed about what you think you have done in the past. You are so absorbed about what you think you have done in the past. I did this, I did that. I'm sorry, but you've done nothing here. What happened? Cause came together. Ignorance and attachment was there. Therefore, you felt jati. Therefore, you felt that you did it. But really, what happened? Something triggered a sense. That went to the mind. The mind arose. The mind passed. Because of ignorance attachment, there was vexation. The mind tried to relieve itself from vexation. Then something happened. Is that you? No, but you feel that, no, I did that. What are other people going to think about? Me. Now you have this excess amount of what? Vexation that's not supposed to be there. Your mind isn't meant to vex. Your mind is meant to what? Arise, perceive, pass. That's it. But that extra vexation, that extra bit of suffering comes because of your ignorance. All we have to do is understand that. All we have to do is see it. And when you see it, then poof, it goes. All we have to do is realize. All we have to do is see. All we have to do is let our teachers shape us to who we have to, or who we can be. Let our teachers shape us to who we can be. See, what happened in the past, what will happen in the future, these are not for us to see. These are just the mind feeling what? The mind feeling that I have done this, I am going to do this, but this feeling of I is just a feeling. What are you doing right now? Or what is happening right now? We have to be aware of that. But the thing is, this is difficult. This is extremely difficult not because it's difficult, because we're not practiced. Actually, this is very easy. Extremely easy. The problem is that we don't have enough practice. Because for an entire samsara, we've been thinking what? Yesterday, tomorrow, the day after, what am I going to do next year? What I did last year? Thinking about what I did. How are things affecting me? Actually, if you think about it, through the entire samsara, we were very selfish. See, even if you think about it, every time you help someone, didn't you have a hidden agenda? Most of the time. Every time you help someone, you had a hidden agenda. Why? So you want something to happen to you. They say giving is selfless. To give, you have to be selfless. You have to be altruistic. But normally, without understanding, we are very selfish. Because we always expect something from them. We have a hidden agenda, hidden under the surface. You give something expecting for them to do something. You give in order expecting to receive. So you're giving selfishly. Giving selfishly, those are like two opposite words, aren't they? Giving, which is such a pure act, and selfishly. The complete opposites. Giving selfishly. You can't. You can't give selfishly. But in the entire samsara, because we are so focused on me, because we're focused on I, we are doing this all very selfishly until you realize what? I am part of what? I am just a part of this imagination. I is just a feeling. Then selfish becomes selfless. And then selfless becomes what? No self. Because when you're doing selfless, doing something selflessly, there's still a self there. But you're trying to do it without thinking of self. Or you're doing it knowing that self is a feeling. Until you do what? Until you truly realize. And then you do something without self. Selfish to selfless to no self. From someone who thinks about only themselves and only the people around them and only my people to someone who thinks about minds, to someone who understands that there only is minds. It's a journey. See, all we have to do is we have to understand. And let our teachers mold us. Let the world around us mold us. You see, I think the best example I can give is an example that Guru Nanak had given long ago. Do you remember the Guru Nanak used to talk about the sword, or the process of making a sword? He explained, saying that, because if you looked at how a sword is made, is it easy? Can anything become a sword? Can wood become a sword? Can you make, clay to become? Oh, can clay become a sword? You see, I think this idea of a sword, this analogy of a sword can be brought into a very deep sense. Because if you think about it, not everything can become a sword. What is it that can become a sword? Metal. But not just any metal. Because if you think, where does metal come from? Right? We learn that metal comes from iron ores that are dug from the ground. Does everything have iron? If you looked at the percentage of iron in this world, how much? 100%. Is everything iron? No. If you took comparatively, the amount of iron in this world is about a small percent, almost like a handful. But just iron ores cannot do anything. So what needs to happen? It's put to a process to extract this iron. They call it the blast furnace, and they put different ingredients together, and they put incredible high heat. But that iron ore has to bear all of this to finally become what? Iron. And it's almost as though, if we took the entire world, only a fraction has the ability to become iron. When extracted, not all of the iron ore is iron. Only a small amount of that actually can be used. But to make a sword, not any iron can be used. Too much carbon, and the sword will shatter. Too little carbon, and the sword will bend. There's a perfect amount. So they say, very, very talented sword makers will only use a specific iron. And that is incredibly small. Through our entire samsaric journey, through our entire samsaric journey, only a handful of times were we eligible, were we in the sugati. And only a handful, only a small portion of that. Because, in our entire samsara, even if you took the entire world, there's only a handful of times that, we've been in a sugati plane, in a heavenly plane. Heavenly meaning human, deities, and etc., etc., etc. Only a handful. Out of those times, only a small portion have we actually, had the opportunity to do what? To receive these so-called the good views. Because unfortunately, in our time in samsara, even when we are humans, we weren't always good. The Buddha says the amount of times that you have been a thief and had your head chopped off, the amount of blood that had come out of this beheading can fuel the seven seas, the entire ocean. Again, the amount of blood that escapes when you have been a thief and had your head chopped off can fill the entire ocean. So, in the births that we've been human, and remember, this is just a thief. This is just a thief who had his head chopped off. Even that example, I think these examples, in every example, there is such a deeper aspect to it. Because, the amount of water that the sea holds, the ocean has, isn't a little. That's pretty obvious. But when a person is beheaded, how much blood do you think escapes? How much blood do you think is spilled? A human doesn't have so much blood. And not all blood comes out. You can almost say just about a couple liters. 22 liters in the body, but not all of that escapes when you get your head chopped off. Say about 10 liters. 10 liters to fill the ocean. How many 10 liters to fill the ocean? And that's when your head was chopped off. I mean, chopped off when you were a thief. If you are a thief, so for example, you became a thief today, would your head be chopped off? Fortunately, in this day and age, we don't have beheadings and corporal and these sort of punishments. You don't see people being beheaded anymore. So there'll be times in this samsaric timeline where you would have been a thief and not had your head chopped off. And this is just talking about a thief. Just a thief. You being a thief. How many different things of different type of people have you been then? In this entire samsaric journey, only a handful amount of times were we born in the Sugati plains. And out of that, only a small fraction have we had the good views to do merits. And on those times that we had the good views, only a fraction of those were we able to meet who? Not meet who, meet what? Meet the Buddha's Dhamma. See, only a fraction you're only able to use a fraction. When the carbon is not too high, not too low. When it's, just like Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, just right. The carbon or the iron is just right. But countless occasions, when the iron is just right, we had what? No blacksmith to pick us up. No blacksmith to hit us. No blacksmith to make us into what we need to be. We had everything but a blacksmith. Only once will we have a time to find a blacksmith. Now, how does a blacksmith make a sword? Do they just look at the piece of iron and say, Ane, please become a sword? I'll do whatever you want, become a sword. Is that how a blacksmith will make a sword? The first thing a blacksmith does is what? Hits it? No. First thing it does, it puts it into the forge. Heats it up. Gives it the right environment. Gives it the heat it needs. Gives it the environment it needs. Puts whatever he wants on it, and to make it in the right environment. Which is what's the right environment for taking the analogy and looking at it into our lives? What is the right environment for us? An environment surrounded by what? Surrounded by merits. Surrounded by noble association. Surrounded by the Dhamma. Surrounded by this Pratibhadava. And then, when the iron is glowing cherry red, the blacksmith will take the iron out, using the hammer, will start to flattening it out. You see, the more your teachers, the more this metal allows the blacksmith to flatten it out, the easier it is for the blacksmith, and the better it is for the metal. Now, in the aspect, or if we looked in the point of view of this piece of metal, and the piece of metal is being hit by this massive hammer, flattening out. It's not going to be easy. It's not the easiest thing. Being flattened out, it could be painful. Sometimes when you hear Guru Han's sermon, sometimes it's very painful to hear. But yet you listen, because he's telling the truth. You know that the blacksmith is molding us to become what we can. And flattened and flattened and flattened and flattened and flattened until they make the basic shape. Then, is that it? Then the blacksmith will, and every time it flattens a bit, the blacksmith will put it back into the furnace, back into the forge, again giving it the environment, because the environment is key. Without the environment, can the blacksmith do anything? No. That's why Guru Handur continuously says, how can you attain Nibbāna living at home? How can you attain Nibbāna living at home when, the furnace is needed, this forge is needed, something to heat the metal up. This environment is essential. Without that, how? It's almost though, the iron says, I don't want to be heated up. I don't want to be in the forge. Teacher, you can hit me all you want, but I'm not going to the forge. The blacksmith will hit, but what will happen to the metal? The blacksmith will hit and hit and hit and hit. But the iron will not flatten out. Instead, the blacksmith will see what? Cracks fall. And if the cracks are too bad, the blacksmith has if the metal doesn't want to go into the furnace, the blacksmith only has one option: to put this iron away. After all of that, to put the iron aside and say, you know what, this iron doesn't want to be in the furnace, let's put it to a side. Then what will happen to the iron? After many, many hundreds of years, will rust. That rust will be blown away. And that rust will rejoin what? The earth. Lost. Someday you'll come back to that state. But when? Who knows? So when that piece of metal is in the forge or the furnace and is heated up, given the right environment, the teacher, the blacksmith will shape it and mold it to where it can go. Shape and mold it to the best it can. Like they say, and I remember long ago, someone telling me or me seeing that some really 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 good swords, the blacksmith will fold it 20, 30 times. So we'll flatten it out, fold it, flatten it out, fold it 20 or 30 times, creating the right texture, the right knead to become a sword. So the teacher will flatten you out, fold you and flatten you out. It can be painful. See, the teacher is not just a person. When I say teachers, no, we're not just talking about Guru Handu. We're talking about the people all around you. We're talking about the things that show you where your defilements are. Because if you feel pain, understand there's a defilement there. If you feel pleasure, understand there's a defilement there. If you feel ego, pride, understand there's a defilement there. That's where it hurts. That's where you have to focus on. So although we say the blacksmith is who, Guru Handu or your teachers, the actual blacksmith is you. The actual blacksmith is you. You are your own blacksmith. Your teacher is the only person who can say, okay, this and this, you have to do this and this to this. You have to, try to flatten this out a bit more. Try to, make this part a bit curved or something. The teacher will tell you that, but the only person who can actually blacksmith yourself is you. Your teacher can only put you into the furnace, but you're the one who has to flatten it out. Your teacher and you will flatten yourself out and fold and flatten and fold and flatten. That's why, you should, whenever given a challenge, take it. Whenever someone's challenging, when something is challenging, take it. When you feel that you can't do it, still take it. Give yourself that challenge. Let yourself be flattened by that challenge. See, if you find it hard to associate one person, challenge yourself. Ask yourself, okay, I want to flatten myself out to become this sword. Let me associate this person. Let's say this person uses harsh words. That no matter what you do, this person calls you an idiot. And it hurts. Stay with that person. Let that person, flatten you out. Because once you have flattened and it no longer affects you, then they no longer matter. They no longer matter. What they say no longer matters. And now you're flattened out. That's why, in this monastery, we have lots of projects. Tons of projects. Sometimes I feel that we have way too many projects to sustainably upkeep, but we have lots of projects. If you have a chance to help and take control of one of them, please do. Because this is one of the best ways to see your defilements. You ask a person to do something, they haven't done it. See if your mind feels this fire come up. See if the mind feels this anger or this frustration. If let it flatten you out. Let it beat the metals to flatten it out. If there is, let's say, no matter what you do, everyone sees what you do to be wrong. Flatten yourself out. Let yourself be flattened. Okay. I mean, the other day when one of our 18 minuses came up to me and said, no matter what I do, my teacher sees me to do everything wrong. If I walk this way, they say I'm wrong. If I talk this way, they say I'm wrong. If I yesterday I was helping out with this merit activity, but the teacher starts telling me off, saying, why didn't you not help? What can I do? So what I tell him? So what? Let yourself be flattened out. I mean, I was telling him how lucky he was to have a person to tell him off. Okay. So, if someone is telling you off for something that you haven't done, why do you feel this need to tell this person that, I haven't done it? Not to correct them. More that because you feel what? That person is thinking wrong about who? About me. That, this me, I haven't done that. Not that you want to correct what they, so imagine they said that, let's say the entire, your entire team is, say, doing a meritorious activity. You are helping. However, let's say that they're doing something and everyone is very, very dirty, became very dirty because of doing something with the mud. But you're helping, but you're still very clean. Your teacher comes to you and says, why haven't you been helping? You should have been doing all this, but you've done lots of work. The reason why you tell your teacher, no, I did do this, I was, trying to prove you're right, is not because you want to show them that you did. No, you want to correct them. More so that you want to show them that, no, you're thinking wrong about who? About me. So where is it that we have to attack then? That feeling of, this is important. They can't be thinking wrong about me. They shouldn't be angry with me. They shouldn't be upset with me because I am what? I am good. I am perfect. I am right. Everyone should be happy with what? Me. Everyone should be friends with what? Me. Everyone should, this concept or this feeling that everyone should be okay with me, that is where you have to put. We have to show ourselves that this feeling of me is just a what? A feeling. That I is just a what? Feeling. Because the body, the mind is there, but where is this I? This I is created because of ignorance and attachment. I mean, we get really invested in thinking that, this is all happening to who? Me. But really, it's just happening. Something is happening. To who? Question's wrong. To who? You can't answer that. Something is happening. So I was telling this child, let's say they are telling you off. So what? So I told him, let's say if your teacher is telling you off for something you haven't done, after this all happens, in the night, go and ask your teacher, can I wash your bottle? Or can I, please, can I have the opportunity to wash your robe? To show the teacher that it doesn't matter what you have told me, I am still a student. I am still a child. I'm ready to grow up. I'm ready to change. Because the only way you can fight ego is using the opposite. The only way you can fight ego is by using the opposite. Ego comes because of ignorance and attachment. So what should you use? You should use wisdom. You should use what? Wisdom. So if you feel that why does everyone think wrong about me? Do something against it. Use your wisdom that you've understood. Use the teachings that you've understood to attack it. And so if there is venom, use the anti-venom. But also try to find a way to put your ego down even further. The lower your ego is, the easier it becomes. So go to your teacher and say, can I have the opportunity to wash your bottle? Because your teacher has given you something. They've given you a treasure. They've given you gold. You should be very happy to have it. Something that also that you can also have is, how people can misjudge your intentions. Very common. Where you do something and someone thinks that you're doing it for one reason when you had you had no intention to do it for that reason whatsoever. Let's take an example. Let's say there's a sermon going on. So, for example, for for your team, there's a sermon going on, and you want to go listen to the sermon. However, someone has asked you to help them, help them do some other activities, like say, for example, carry something very heavy to another place. And let's say someone comes up to you and says, you went and did that because you didn't want to listen to the sermon, right? But you wanted to, but someone misjudged your intention. Why do we feel the need to correct them? To be like, no, I really wanted to listen to the sermon, but this person asked me, therefore I did it. Why do we want to correct them? Not for the reason because it's an incorrect information, more because you think because you have this feeling that they think I'm this sort of person. I'm not like that. Even if you did, let's say let's say the sermon, you were really tired, therefore you don't want to listen to the sermon. Instead, you were asked to do this meritorious activity and you left. But the person said, oh, you did it because you wanted to not listen to the sermon. Because you don't want them to misjudge you, or because you don't want them to see you wrongly, you correct them saying, I actually wanted to. Why? Because you always want people to think good about who? Me. It's me. I am important here. I am right. Everyone should be okay with me. But really, that's just a feeling. It's a feeling the mind just feels because of ignorance and attachment. But what happens if, everyone thinks of me like that? That feeling comes from what? Ignorance and attachment. What happens if Guru Han thinks like me like that? Where does that feeling come from? Ignorance and attachment. What happens if, the entire monastery thinks like that? Where does that come from? Ignorance and attachment. You see, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But inside, because of ignorance and attachment, you feel what? What if they think I'm a bad person? What if they think, I'm doing this for this reason? Because why? I have to protect me. I have to protect me. That's my, you have like about what you call Maslow's law, hierarchy law. Maslow's hierarchy. The very basic one. The actual very basic one is what? The protection of self. That is the lowest one. First protecting me, and then I think about food. First protecting me, and then I'll think about where I have to stay. Because why? I come first. Because I am important. So coming back to our analogy, let your teacher flatten you out. Flatten out. Look at yourself. See where there's an extra bump, an extra a hole, and again flatten yourself out. Keep on flattening, and then once you have been flattened out, is that it? Now you take what do you call it, a sandpaper or a whetstone, and smoothen it out. Once you have flattened yourself out, now that your teacher, now the blacksmith will remove all the scales and all the impurities and sharpen you. And once you have been sharpened and decorated as usual, decorated to the way the blacksmith desires, only now can you be presented to be the sword. You see, to become a sword is not easy. You have to go through heat. You have to go through pain. You have to go through the process of flattening it out. The stronger the sword, the more times it had to be folded. I can't remember someone. I think one of the strongest swords will be folded over 50 times, 30, 40, 50 times. Let the world flatten you. Let the world do what they need. As long as you're in the right environment, let the world flatten you to be as thin as possible. Because lower the surface area, the higher the force. The more the sword can cut. So let the world flatten you. Let the world completely, flatten you and flatten you and flatten you and fold you and flatten you to become the shape of the sword. To become the true sword. That's why, this analogy of becoming a sword is such a great analogy. It is such a, you can almost say it's such a beautiful analogy. Because not everyone can become a sword. Right now, we have the chance to be put into this forge. We have a chance to be put into the this furnace. Because why? We have the environment. Let yourself be heated up and flattened. Let yourself be heated up and flattened. And once you've been flattened, let yourself heat up again. And then flattened again. Challenge yourself. If there's something that you don't like doing, challenge yourself. Let's say you don't like eating curd with mellum. Challenge yourself. Give yourself the challenge. Let yourself be flattened. This is why your teacher you should be almost like a best friend. Your teacher should almost be like a best friend, because then the sword will say, you know what, I think I have a small bump here. Can you help me here? And the teacher will take the hammer and go and flatten that place out. Your teacher is someone who is able to shape you to become who you can be. Let them shape you. Let them challenge you. Let them do what they can to make you who you can be. It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy for the sword, the metal, nor the blacksmith. Because sword has to be beat, and then the blacksmith has to be the one who gives the beatings. It's painful both blacksmith and sword. So become a sword. We've all come up to this state. All we need to be put into the furnace. And what's it called? The anvil. Put onto the anvil. And then flattened out. The process of making a sword. The process of making a sword. We are extremely lucky to go past all of this. I mean, living life as a human, we seem to forget about everything that we have done to get to this moment. The amount of merits that we've done to get to this moment. Because it becomes more like that, this is how it should be. It almost feels as though I've always been a human. I've always been like this. I've always been such a person like me. That's what's felt by what? By me. Because you feel that this is who I am and I've always been me, and therefore I've always been this human who's such a good person, who comes to the monastery every day. That's been me for my entire life. But we seem to forget the journey that had to be taken for us to be where we are now. The journey, it wasn't easy. That's why, the chances of us to get this chance again, the probability of us to get this moment like this again, is next to zero. Next to zero. That's why strive, be heedful, let yourself be flattened out. So I also wanted to go into a more I wanted to explore something which I think was very interesting. Interesting in the sense that if you really understand this, you come to the point where almost you think, okay, you feel that there's no difference in things. So what I want to explain is this. Everything that we're seeing right now is where? Everything that we're seeing right now is where? Because the first thing that we feel automatically is what I am seeing is what is here. What I am seeing is what is there. I mean, you can almost say it's very logical, because why? You see through your eyes, and therefore everything that you're seeing is where? The thing is outside in front of me. But where are we actually seeing? This R, or this mental R, is what? The external object? This is the internal object. Internal meaning it's what the mind receives. So what you are seeing is what? What you are seeing isn't what's here. Instead, it's what's in your mind. Now, again, there is something there. What is there? What is here? Four great elements, or in another way, or in a more understandable way, there is energy here. Energy. Condensed energy, uncondensed energy, it doesn't matter. Energy is there. So this is all outside our eyes. There's just energy. But when light comes into contact with the eyes, now an image, now an object appears. Where? So what am I seeing right now? I'm seeing what? I'm seeing my mind. This is my mind that I'm perceiving. So when I see a person, I'm seeing what? Outside my eye, there's a group of energy. A group of energy. But inside my mind, I'm seeing a person. Inside my mind, I'm seeing a person. So let's say there's a bunch of energy here, but inside my mind, I'm seeing a flower. And that is, see, and what the mind does is the mind projects it outside and says, what I am perceiving is here. What I am perceiving is where? Here. But really, where is it? Now, understanding this, that everything outside the mind is energy, right? Light energy, sound energy, the four great elements, condensed, uncondensed, just energy. When it enters the eye and it goes into the mind produces an object. The mind produces either a sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and it creates this feeling of an object. And the mind projects it outside. The mind perceiving an object, is that wrong? The mind perceiving an object, is that wrong? No, I mean, the mind is supposed to do that. The mind is supposed to what? Take in energy through the six senses and perceive. So for it to see the flower, or for it to perceive the flower, is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. That's how it's supposed to happen. But what is wrong? What is wrong is this feeling that the object that is perceived is where? Here. That this is what I'm perceiving is here. Because when you have this feeling that what I'm perceiving is here, what you are also perceiving is what? A fixed entity. Because remember, right? Energy has no need. Energy has no need, has no requirement, doesn't need to do anything. The energy is just there. Light energy has no requirements. All that it does, it travels. According to the causes, something happens. If I ask you this question, is light there for us to see? But then if there's no light, we can't see. So light is there for us to see, right? No, light isn't there for us. Light isn't there for us. Instead, light is there. Light at that moment is there. Full stop. But if there is an eye, now what? Perception happens. Eye and a mind, of course. Perception happens. A seeing mind arises and a perception will happen. Now, if you truly understand that this is all a perception. Now, if there are two separate objects, so a blue pen and a red pen, and I ask you to choose, which one would you choose? Which one would you choose? I have a blue pen here and a red pen here. Which one would you choose? The perception of a blue pen is created where? Oh, where is the blue pen? The mind. Where is a red pen? The mind. Blue pens in the mind, red pens in the mind. The difference in those minds? Which one is more valuable? Which mind is more valuable? The red or the blue pen? Or the perception of a red pen or the perception of a blue pen? Neither. It's almost as though saying, I think this is an example that Guru Maharaj gave as well. You ask, let's say you ask what's for dinner. And the two options are, either bread or bread. Which one would you pick? I mean, imagine this. Imagine you go somewhere. Let's say you observe a family, right? They're all sitting at the dinner table, and the wife asks, husband, what do you want for dinner? I've got, I prepared some bread, and I've also prepared some bread. And this husband goes and thinks, I want some bread. Well, what do you call that? You can call them crazy, né? Because why? Either bread or bread. There's no two options there. It's just what? There's just bread. So if I showed you two different things and you say, red. They're both the same. They're both a mental perception. But if one of them is more valuable to you, that's a feeling in the mind. You can almost call that person crazy. Insane. Because, bread or bread? Which one? Do you want bread or do you want bread? Does it matter? That's why, Arahant would be like, this one. Why? Because if you ask them, why did you choose that pen? Because, I don't know, because it's there. Not that one of them is better, one of them is worse. It's just give me a random one, it doesn't matter. Because they don't see the value. Because the feeling of value is made where? The feeling of the value is made where? In the mind. So how can you feel that one thing is better than something else? Something is worse than something else. Okay? That's two pens. Which one's better? Well, choose one. Bread or bread? Okay, you can say depending on requirement, then there could be a difference. For example, I need to use this to erase this out. Therefore, there's a requirement. But which one's more valuable? Which one's better? We can't say. Because all there is this is what? This is mental perception. This is also what? A perception. Remember, just outside your eye, there's just energy. So, which energy is better? This energy or that energy? Is there this energy and that energy? I've got this energy and I've got light energy and I've got sound energy here. Is there a difference in energy here? No, energy is energy, has different forms, I agree, but energy is always what? The same. So which energy is better, light energy or sound energy? Heat energy? Or thermal energy or gravitational potential energy? Which one energy is better? If someone was to go and say, you know what, my favorite energy is, what would you call the person? My favorite energy is Light energy. What would you call the person? Why? Why light energy? What did sound energy ever do to you? No, because energy is energy. Whether this is what this is and light energy, both are just different types, or the same energy in different ways of being expressed. So do you want a pen or a light? The difference is nothing, because outside your eyes there's just what? Just what? Energy. Only once it's observed by, a mind, will it pick up what? An object, a thing, something. But then you can say, well, a camera can pick up objects, can't it? A camera can pick up objects. Can it? Cameras can't take photos of objects. What can it do? It can take pictures of what? Light. It can take pictures of what? Light. But when you see the picture that the camera has taken, what do you see? Objects. You can see what? Objects. But then you can also argue and say, well, there are some cameras that can recognize people, faces. So, for example, nowadays, cameras on the phone can focus on faces, can recognize faces. Well, cameras can't recognize faces. What can it recognize? There's a line like this. There's some colors in a line like this. There's some colors in a line like that. That's a horrible eye. As you can see, I'm very good at art. Can the camera, or can this system recognize eye? No, it will see shapes. Or technically, it can't see shapes, can it? It can see differences in color. Therefore, it will assume a shape. Therefore, it will assume an object. But the camera will never say, or will never feel as though there's an eye there. Will instead give the output of there's an eye there. There are two eyes, nose, and a mouth. There's a face there. But the difference is, when we see it, we see what? We see there's an eye there. There's a fixed eye there. That's all a feeling the mind has. That's all a feeling that the mind has. The mind feels as though there's a fixed, separate, special thing. For example, we ask the camera, what's more special, this or that? What's more special, this or that? The camera will say what? Bread or bread? Bread. Bread or bread? Bread. But yet you feel something different. You feel this, this is, I don't know, this looks okay. It's better than this. I like this better than this, or I like that better than this. And you automatically have a different feel to it. Where does that come from? That comes from jati. That's an effect of jati. Because remember, outside the eye, they're all the same. Outside your eyes, everything is the same. Outside your senses, everything is just energy. But when your senses come into play, now you see things, different separate things, more valuable things, many things. Once you have things, now you have things that you like, things that you don't like. Things that you want, things that you don't want. And not only that, now you have a future with these things. You have a past with these things. And now you have an entire timeline. Thanks to ignorance and attachment, people, a mind feels this feeling of fixed. A mind feels this feeling of fixed. When the mind feels you to be fixed, the mind thinks that, well, I have to be here. If I am here, then there could be what? More of who? Can there be more of me? There can't be more of me. Unless what? And now they have different theories. You know how many people believe there to be this they believe this concept of there are parallel universes where I am in another universe but different. I am in another universe but different. Like they say, there's a different universe for every choice that you've made. So for example, let's say you're going down a path and let's say you choose to go left. In another universe, you choose right. And so that's now two different universes. Why people? Because people want to feel what? That I am here. If I am there, then there has to be this, there has to be that. They create this entire universe or this entire world of this on this basis that I am there. So where is this flower? The flower is mind-made. Where is this pen? This pen is mind-made. Where are these words? These words are what? Mind-made. But yet you feel what? These words are coming from my mouth. This pen is out here. That flower is over there. Which one's better? Which one's worse? Now you can compare and contrast, and you like things, you don't like things. But bread or bread? Which one? Bread or bread? Choose bread or bread. You can either choose bread or you can choose bread. Which one? Bread. Today is Dakineyo, therefore we have what? Paripu, soya, and malum, and all these things. You can choose that, or you can choose, or you can choose guava, cabbages and lettuce and radish, and you can choose which one do you want to choose? Which one's better? Paripuzoya, or cabbage and radish. Which one? Bread or bread? Bread. They're all just a perception. Oh, don't worry. In the future, we're gonna have lots of Goa. Trust me, there's gonna be lots of it. No, not Goa. Anything but Goa. Goa is lettuce. Lettuce. We're going to have lots of lettuces, don't worry. We're going to have thousands of lettuces, don't worry. I'm predicting the future here. Lettuce. Which one's better? Lettuce or paripu? Paripu, I can have paripu every day, but having lettuce every day, no, I can't. Difference? Bread or bread? Bread. I mean, if you really realize that outside your senses is just energy, and if you realize that everything here is just a perception, what can't you eat? They say, you can't eat this. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I have to. There are so many people that I've met that's like, if I'm eating rice, there has to be paripu, or else I can't eat. Says who? Says the mind that feels that paripu's outside. That the dal kari is outside. Why? Bread or bread? Bread. I mean, all we have to do is we have to see this. Understand and see. Whenever you can, try to see that, everything outside here is just energy. What I'm seeing right now is a mental perception. This isn't in the world. It's in my world. Someone's scolding you for something you haven't done. Where's that? Outside. Someone's telling you off for something you haven't done. Where's that? Outside. No. That's where? In your world. That's a mental perception. Not out here. So why should you be upset? The world that you're living in is this, a world of energy. But yet, if you feel that there are people and things and you're living in a mental world full of what? Ignorance and attachment. See, all we have to do is to come to our senses. All we have to do is to be aware. Put this into practice. Put this into practice. See this in your lives. And this is the thing, Let this be the hammer to flatten you out. Whenever you can, be aware. Every time I'll tell you this, being aware is the hardest part. Understanding is actually pretty easy. If you don't understand today, you'll be able to understand tomorrow. But what's the problem is the ability to be aware. Because in a week, how aware are we? The more aware we are, the better. But individually, we all know how aware we become in a day. We need to be aware. To be mindfully aware. To put this truth into practice. To see the world as it truly is. All we need to do is to be aware. That's it. Full stop. Because once we are aware, the process of what? Ignorance, attachment, jati, will stop, will cease. If that's the venom, the Dhamma plus awareness is the anti-venom. Because Dhamma is not enough. Being aware and Dhamma is what we need. If not, that's all we need to get rid of ignorance and attachment. That's venom. The Dhamma and being aware is anti-venom. All right. So remember to let your teachers flatten you out and to stay in this forge. And that's what I say, That's why Guru Maharaj will continuously say, how can someone attain Nibbāna if they don't have this forge environment? If they don't have this furnace environment, how can they attain Nibbāna? Guru Maharaj and their teachers will take the hammer and try to flatten it out. But if the environment is not right, all they will do is the metal will crack. I mean, how many people do you think, they believe that, I want to attain Nibbāna, but they're not ready to get into the furnace. And whenever the world and their teacher tries to flatten them out, they don't They don't flatten out, instead they crack. Put to a side. For one day, for them to become a metal again. Don't be like that. Let yourself be flattened out. Let yourself be heated by the environment, heated by the furnace, to finally become the sword. Right. Today's Dakini, so I had to set you off early. Do we have any messages? No, I believe not. So let's take a few moments to transfer merits and conclude today's session. Let us take a moment to transfer the merits we acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues, the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirith, listening Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teachings. And with immense gratitude, let's chant for the Master Bhikshu Bhikshunis, Upasakas Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down through generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to come to the Dhamma. Let's all take a moment to transfer to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including all the chief prelates of all the chapters, who have dedicated their lives to know path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let's not forget, among them will be the monks and nuns raised in local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side, through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to Guru Sananse, as well as all the monks resident in the monastery, as well as the Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to special gratitude to those who make great efforts to spread the teaching of the Buddha, be there by translating sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May the power of the merits. If any of them have been born in the Wilf plains, may they redeem themselves and be born in the Bliss plane. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds. Fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to all those friends of the monastery who, for sake of merits, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicines, and pass on the nohaks and their well wishes. May the power of the merits, may they abstain from meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employees, and to all that have helped us, supported us, assisted us in shape or form. By the power of the merits, may they be healed of any physical mental ailments, may they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds. Fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who predeceased us, to all that have been friends of home to us in the long journey to Sansara. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all the members of the armed forces as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those lost life in the war be the friend or foe. We rejoice in the merits we've acquired today. Let's also take a moment to transfer merits to all those lost life in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, and pandemics, reminding ourselves among them will be those who have been friends and family to us in the long journey to Sansara. May by the power of the merits, if any of them have been born in the Buddha plains, may they redeem themselves and be born in the Bliss plane. May by the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginen midetva, dvesha ginen midetva, moha ginen midetva, Nibbāna param sukhayin sukita taravitva. Nibbāna param sukhayin sukita taravitva. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satnvayo Nibbāna param sukhayin sukita taravitva. Nibbāna param sukhayin sukita taravitva. Nibbāna param sukhayin sukita taravitva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva, nivan sap labeva, nivan sap labeva. Nivan sap labeva. තුන්වන්ගේ ශ්‍රී සනන්ත මහ මුනිවරයන් සීල ලෝක සීල සත්‍යවම නිබ්බාන පරම සුඛයෙන් සිත